Sorry.
Okay, recording is started. I'll let more people in as they join. Let me quickly make Simone co-host so that if people pop in, I don't have to worry about it. Okay, Simone, your co-host. So if you can let people in, that'd be fantastic. All right, fantastic. So I was looking through my notes of what we've covered in the mastermind so far, and it's pretty awesome. I gotta say, it's pretty rad. So I want to do a really quick recap of all the cool stuff that we've actually covered and what we've done. There was one missed video. I apologize for that. One video for some reason did not capture. And today's topic is going to be somewhat different. But we talked about the idea of trust capital. Um, we talked about feedback analysis and key decision making. So that was a big component there. We did a big talk with or a case study on grind coffee and what we needed to do there. We talked about signal versus noise. We had a big conversation about decentralized command back in February, which was really, really great. We also then went through the peak end rule, which actually I had two clients really implement peak end rule and take a look at some key processes on where that applies for them. If you're in a service-based business, go take a look at that video. If you don't have a link for it, fire me up on the WhatsApp community. That one's a game changer. And we're going to talk about integration today. So not all the notes are there, but I just wanted to highlight that we've been covering some really good stuff, and a lot of that's been coming up in a lot of our meetings as well. So yeah, that's the point of the community, is to help grow. All right, so here we go. Who should be in the room? Well, you guys, owners, C-suites, executives. Okay, that's who we're after. Remember these agreements. You guys know this. Keep your video on. A couple of you messaged me, said, "Hey, I may be driving or whatnot," so that's fine. Get to the point. Show up to each session. Video on's preferred. AI is fine as long as you're in the room, and so that's all fine. And if you can advise, raise a hand. Also connect on our chat on our WhatsApp community to help each other out. That's a big part of this. I want to build a really strong executive community over time and go with it from that perspective. All right, so we're going to do some selected member introductions for this as well. And Trevor, I want you to jump in. Basically, I want you to introduce yourself, who you are, your role, your business name, a recent win in your business, and then how does someone get a hold of you?
Hi, my name is Trevor, and I am from Tag Electric. Actually, I recognize, is it Duncan from Paris? Is that correct?
There's Duncan, there's Graham there as well.
Or Graham, sorry, it's Graham. It
Ah,
is Graham.
hey, buddy. I recognize you too. Yes.
I worked for Kuban Electric back in the day, so I
Yes.
worked with a couple of your guys on projects. Actually, I worked the last project I worked on with you guys. I think Lindsay was still with you before she went and became the inspector. Yeah. My business name is Tag Electric. Recent win. I just actually got off the phone with Hydro right now and turned a 200 amp service into a 400 amp service at pretty much no cost, and no time delay. So I was pretty happy about that. And you get a hold of me by pretty much right now just calling me, 778-772-1963 if you guys are needing to get a hold of me. My email, you can get a hold of me by email as well. My website sucks. I'm just starting out with Edwyn. I'm pretty excited. I'm in the honeymoon phase, so I'm pretty jacked up about this whole process. And that's me in a nutshell.
Nice. Awesome. Yeah, stoked to have you here as well. Yeah, fantastic. Heather, we moved the time. Now you're able to make it, which is fantastic. You want to say your name, role title, business name, recent business win, and then how someone gets a hold of you.
Yeah, thank you for moving the time. I'm a big fan of this time. Yeah, I'm Heather Bears. I'm the owner, founder of Zoetica Environmental Consulting Services. 1 minute intro on our business. We do all sorts of consulting projects for municipal, First Nation, and private clients, and government contracts as well. It's a mix of pure science, where people have a question that needs to be answered, how many caribou do we have? What do we do to conserve them? Those sort of questions, to really applied questions like, you know, how do we get this permit to build this building? So we run the gamut of those sort of things. How does someone get a hold of me? You can go to www.zoeticaenvironmental.com and type in the contact box, and it goes to a generic email address so I don't get overwhelmed. And that's probably the best way to reach us. Or you can try me on WhatsApp, but I'm really never on WhatsApp. So yeah, there's a low chance I'll respond on there.
Nice. You know, so you know, I get a lot of cool emails from a lot of you guys in the room. And I got the coolest email from Heather the other day. It had to do with this mountain beaver that's recently been found again up in the Coquitlam watershed. And they're these little rodents with like these cool nails, but they have OCD when it comes to the way they line up these little ferns in front of them. And they also have completely underdeveloped kidneys, so they're thirsty all the time. Kind of like what Trevor was talking about earlier and his weekend plans. All right, cool. So we got lots covered today. Thanks for introducing, guys. Here's a cool little quote from Peter Drucker, the OG. If you haven't read Peter Drucker, anything about Peter Drucker, not listened to anything about Peter Drucker, you have. You just don't realize that you have. Myself and pretty much every other person in my space, in some way, shape, or form, are talking about Peter Drucker. Okay, it's just how it is, and we can't escape it. He's fantastic. So, one of his great quotes: "Whenever you see a successful business, someone once made a courageous decision." All right. You guys can resonate with this. Every single one of you in the room are resonating with this quote, without question. And you got to continue to make courageous decisions in order for your business to be successful. And courage comes with a lot of fear. That's just how it works. You're going to have this fear response before something happens, and you got to push through it and have that courageous decision making. Now, who do you surround yourself with to help you do that? That's super important. And you know, we talked about proper decision making and how you build that out in your team, or how do you make effective decisions if you're a solopreneur or an independent contributor, all those kinds of things. But your primary goal, everyone in this room, is to have a successful business, myself included. So how many courageous decisions can you make, right? You know, I posted in the WhatsApp chat recently, you know, a lot of you guys are, you know, working with me directly and paying me fees for my coaching. Super grateful. I get to make an impact with you guys and hopefully add some value. I spend about 40K a year in coaching, whether it's in a sales and marketing program, going to conferences, whatever happens to be. Like, I am constantly reinvesting as well. And so why are we doing this? It's to make our businesses successful and to have courageous decision making. So really, really important quote here. We're talking about integration today. I was toying with the idea of was I going to talk about integration or execution? And I really landed on the word integration versus execution. We know execution matters, and I've got a quote that's going to talk about that as well. But decisions are based off of ideas. Ideas have to be integrated through execution. But if they don't always last. Like, the ability to integrate something and get it to become a part of how is so important. Otherwise, it's like, I got an idea, you're just pulling on threads. And the ability to start to integrate what you've learned is one component. Integrating a process, super important. Integrating a new initiative, super important. So we're going to talk about this idea of integration. In business speech, we all often talk about vertical and horizontal integration. We are talking about that as well. But internal, non-vertical or non-horizontal or non-M&A integrations are still really challenging. And here's the thing. When we look at the 5 pillars of business, if you are having troubles with integrating at pillar 1, which is your specialization, pillar 2, which is your operations, or pillar 3, which is your biz dev, you're going to have a really hard time with vertical integration and horizontal integration. And you're going to have a really hard time with M&A. Because you're taking entire new components and try to integrate them into your business, as opposed to an inside out type of approach. So getting good at integration on your internal parts is gonna make your scalability way more effective. Your growth arc is gonna get way stronger. Okay. So here's a Steve Jobs quote. Johnny, you got a great voice. Want to read this out?
You put me under pressure now. To me, ideas are worth nothing unless executed. They're just a multiplier. Execution is worth millions.
Yeah. So, I mean, we know that Apple basically became the trillion-dollar empire that it is because of the ability to execute. Now, I mentioned this before. Apple had a very specific strategic integration requirement. They said, first, we will be a 100% fully integrated company. Like line item number one. Second, every single one of our products has to fit on one table. Huge. I mean, could Apple have turned into GE with 1 million SKUs? Yeah, possibly. But you can literally take every Apple product, put it on one big boardroom table, and there you go with a fully integrated company. So the idea of integration is very, very important. So we're going to have this. Okay, so here's a discussion topic. What is integration when it comes to new initiatives, innovation, projects, and processes in the business? Okay. And I'm going to give you a little direction with a fill in the gaps. So what role does blank items 1 to 9 plus 10 as an add-on have towards integration? So I kind of want to open this up to just initial conversation before we get into a case study, which we're going to dive into today. So, for example, what role does communication have towards integration? What role does vertical have towards integration? What role does change management or people in leadership have towards integration? These are your primary components towards having a successful integration in your company. Who wants to start? I know, super wild, open conversation. I'll set you up a little bit. Okay, so I'll tee it up for you. For example, objectives. Yeah, we got all these things we want to do, not integrated. Objectives don't get hit. We have this new idea that we've just got in, perfect. It's all built. Someone actually did it. Didn't roll out with the team. No change management integration. Well, we've created a new org structure with these roles and responsibilities. Fantastic. No accountability with the person who now owns that position. Lack of integration. This is what I'm talking about. So who wants to sort of ask a question, say a statement, talk about a success?
I would just say that without integration on every one of those line items, the process inside of that is going to crumble. So like exactly what he said, you gave a couple examples on objectives, and I think you talked about communication, but change management. If I created a change management process within my company, you and us do constantly, and without the people involved having the ability to integrate that change into their workflows and into their teams, it's going to crumble. And the same goes for every single one of those things. So I think integration is the center, or the ability in order to integrate is really the kind of keystone for all of business operations. Yeah, fundamentally. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. And as a solopreneur, and Edwyn as well, like I've never actually seen it in that scope where it's like if you have an organization, you can kind of see it by department, who's not integrating something, which like where's the buck kind of stopping. Whereas if you're a solopreneur, it's like you're only accountable for yourself. So if you actually see it as, hey, I have like these millions of ideas, like I can execute them, but do they make sense? And like, am I actually doing it? Like, where's my process? So it's good to see it that way.
Yep, fantastic. Who else? Really, really great points, Graham and
I,
Johnny.
I've got a quick thing if you guys
Yeah,
can hear me.
yeah, go ahead,
It's
Trevor.
Trevor. So yeah,
Hey,
so
Trevor,
you know,
your screen's off.
integration.
I don't know if you can turn your screen on or not, but so we can see your
I
beautiful
can't.
face. But
Sorry, I
okay,
got caught
if
later.
you're driving, that's okay. Yeah, go ahead.
I'm driving, but I can hold it up. Hold on a
No, no,
second
no,
here.
no.
Just give me
Go,
one
yeah,
second.
go ahead, go ahead, go ahead, go ahead.
Okay, I apologize. I got caught late in a meeting there. I couldn't get out of it. So,
Okay.
but you know, it's a great topic and very hard to find how, like to Graham's point, you can have a great change management process, but finding integration can be tough. And I'm dealing with a particular situation right now where there's some people that have been a part of the company for quite a while, and they are very resistant to change or integrating anything new into their workflows. And it's like it's very limiting as far as how quickly the team can advance, and it's causing some like you know teams to be fractured because some people are adopting it well and you know being very warm to the idea of some of these changes, and some team members are just extremely resistant, and it's really fracturing the team. And we're kind of at a we're kind of like at kind of a point where we're having to huddle again and see how we're going to approach it, because you know these some of these new things have to be integrated into the team, you know, are necessary for us to keep evolving in the business. But like, you know, where does it lie with these old dogs and then being resistant to change? It's a really tough thing to integrate that company wide, you know. I'm not sure if you have any advice or anyone's dealt with that similar situation.
Yeah, I definitely have some ideas on that. Does anyone else want to jump in? I love getting your
I,
guys' perspective as well.
I just want to say what pops out to me here is maybe trumps everything is communication. I feel if people understand why you're trying to integrate, the why behind it, maybe they'd come to align with you more. So communication would be number one in my
Mm.
perspective.
I was literally going to say the same thing and then tie it back to clarity. Do you have clarity in your communication? And then it comes back to people and leadership too. But ultimately, are you all on the same page about what integration, the why behind it, why this action needs to be taken, and what is the actual goal, and what is the role that they play in that change and in your business, and why they're so important to your business?
I would also get
Yeah.
curious on the like what's the resistance behind it?
I was thinking, and I don't know if I'm off base here, but I worked for a company and they started to integrate some new processes, and I did not like them. But I think my dislike for the processes were I thought they were overcomplicated. So if you're not comfortable with a change because it seems like it's overcomplicated, I think that will slow down your desire for this integration of these new systems. You want to stay with what you know. It's so much easier to stay with what we know. Why are we putting this integration? Why are we bringing in this new step? I don't like it. And if you can simplify it, make it super clear as to why, and then show them how easy it is to do, I think you kind of solve your own problem. Without that clarity and the simplicity, I think people just fear it, and then they'll be super stubborn to accept.
Yeah.
Yeah, all good,
Yeah,
all
really,
good
really
points.
good points. Yeah, really, really good points. I've got two particular thoughts on this. One of them is using a very simple SWOT analysis relative to a change rollout. So you don't need to do a SWOT analysis for a company-wide change. Like, who are we as a company as a SWOT? Okay, you can do a SWOT analysis, so strength, weakness, opportunity, threat, against a specific new initiative, and say, what are the strengths of the initiative? What are the current weaknesses it's going to produce? What are the opportunities it's going to create? And what are the threats that we think it's going to open ourselves up to? And we could then address each of those components relative to what's going on. So that would be the first thing that I would have. The second one is tied to people and leadership, where if you don't have a company culture of change, then making change will be hard. It's just how it works. And so the whole idea of like, okay, well, what's our ethos? What's our values? Like what are we saying is important to us in the how we play the game is fundamental towards this. So if the how we play the game is tried and true and tradition without innovation, then we've reinforced that probably positively over time. And now we're wanting to break that model. And once that model is established and that trench has sort of been created, integrating a shift in mindset like that is really, really hard because we've said this is how we want you to be, right? And so the way that you end up adapting team culture is you have to adapt team culture from moving backwards. You can't just change the culture of the team as the outset. And this is not just directed to you, Trevor. This is like a general statement. The whole idea of updating team culture means that the behavior of the team has to change. The only way the behavior of the team changes is when there's an individual change in behavior. The only way people change individual behaviors is when there is an individual insight into what are my behaviors and can I make them the things that I don't know about why I am a certain way into something about knowing how I am a certain way, and so unless that work is incrementally happening, you've got a very sort of gummed up gear mechanism that you're trying to expect that gear mechanism to do something else downstream. And so we're dealing with an outcome versus process conflict, right? So it's a nuanced thing, and I think everyone's points are super, super valid.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, really, it's all insightful. I really appreciate all points of view, and I think Edwin, the last thing you said there was really important. Is just that like it's an like the personality integration with everybody and creating that that trend of change, ongoing change and evolution. It's important to have that ongoing with every individual all the time, which can be difficult. It can be really tough to do.
Yep, and you got to invest in it. So this is another component, right? And I mean, there's some people in the room here who can attest to this. When you invest in your leaders and you invest in the ability of your key players who are making decisions, if someone has the authority to make a decision, and you invest in those people with what's going on there, what's the challenge, how is this working? These seem like, man, we're gonna have an hour meeting with someone with two high-level executives sitting in with this person and our executive coach and our HR person or whatever it happens to be to go through this thing. Man, that's a big spend. Yeah, what's the bigger cost? The cost to the cost is that when you actually have an objective that you want to roll out and integrate, it doesn't work. And it's like, okay, well, it would be like making a racetrack, never paving it, and then putting a whole bunch of supercars on it. It's like, man, they're just going to destroy themselves on gravel. It's not going to work. You didn't pave the road. So it's like, oh, are you paving the road to get you there? And paving the road costs money. It costs money, it costs time, it costs an intention to integrate it. So really, really important pieces of the puzzle here. The reason why I put 7, 8, and 9 as 7, 8, and 9 is because if you struggle with 1 to 6, 7, 8, and 9, for those of you who want to grow a business with vertical integration, horizontal integration, or M&A, is going to be really hard. 7, 8, and 9 are pillar 4 and 5 on my 5 pillars of business, right? If you can't integrate 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6, you're going to have a really hard time with 7, 8, and 9. And your value to the market will be less. So really, really powerful to go into that. Okay, we're going to do a case study to actually talk about this. Let me explain to you why case studies are such valuable tools. We're so close to our business that we sometimes can't see the solution because we're in the forest, right? It's a classic saying, can't see the forest for the trees. I experience this, right? I'm going through a sales and marketing program right now where I have an easier time solving your guys' sales and marketing process than I have my own. Like, the ability to articulate is like really hard when you're in it. And so when we work at case studies, what we're doing is we're exercising a part of our brain to deal with something that we have very little threat around. Because when we're trying to make decisions in our business, our threat analysis will go up because the risk analysis goes up. The consequence of the legacy of the decision goes up. And so what ends up occurring is that we have the scenario going like, and we start to throttle back our innovative and creative thinking because we're so closely tied to the decision point and the consequence of it that we don't free up our way of thinking. So the reason why we do case studies is we go, oh yeah, no, if they just did this, and this, that would totally solve their problem. And then we go, great, could you do that for your business? And like, oh yeah, shit, I could probably do that for my business. Okay. And so we end up with this ability to go through there. So that's the pre-frame on why case study is important. This case study is going to be called Psychopath. And you're welcome. Came up with that name myself. I thought it was pretty fun. And so you can screen cap the next two slides as they show up. But I also want you to realize something here as well, is that Simone is actually going to read the next two slides off as though she's the owner of Psychopath. Okay. And what I want you to realize is that you guys have the benefit of seeing the slide before we go into the breakout rooms. Majority of the time when you're dealing with the things that are going to show up for Psychopath's integration problems, they are happening. I know for me, Ashley, you're probably in the same boat on this. They happen for me with this verbal diarrhea. Like the owner is like, oh yeah, this is blah, 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 and this is what's going on. And you're trying to make sense of it all. And for those of you who are in an ownership position, you are experiencing this when your team is just blah, like throwing out all these issues that are going on within their division or their department. And so we are almost creating a little false sense of security by the fact that we can actually read what the problem is. Because in most cases in a boardroom meeting, you're not reading what the problem is. You're just hearing other people banter about it, sometimes with very, very unclear thinking. Right? Okay. So here we go. Simone, you're up to bat.
As the owner of Cyclepath, I see many ways to grow. I want to add community rides to attract new customers. I want to plan and to implement a new point of sale system that doubles as CRM for our website. I want a no-wait service department to repair bikes quickly and keep stock on hand. And I want to launch a high-end men's racing line to appeal to wealthy and serious cyclists. Right now, my team is overwhelmed. Our repair shop is backed up 2 weeks. They spend most of their time building bikes for the showroom. We also dedicate many hours to help customers with rentals. Managing inventory, shipping, receiving is an ongoing challenge. Honestly, I don't know how to add these new ideas without overloading my team. We're capable, but stretched thin. I need help figuring out how to make everything work without burning out everyone or losing focus.
Beautiful. That's why I married her. Okay, fantastic. So this is the problem. I'm going to be throwing you guys into breakout rooms. You guys have to figure out the integration issues based off of what you just heard. Okay, if you don't remember all of it, it's fine. And I know some of you are sort of in transit or whatever else, so I'll be somewhat forgiving in regards to that. So let me just quickly assign the rooms here, and then I will throw you in there because I do want you guys to kind of work with people that you don't often work with to help solve some of these problems. Okay. And let's go here. Let's go there. Oh, Ashley, I'm going to put your Fathom taker in with you, so that way at least you've got it with you. And Trevor, okay, hang on 1 second. I'm just going through and one more. Uno más. Okay, I think I'll go with that. I have one in there that's not ideal, but that's okay. I'm going to open up those rooms, and you guys can jump into those rooms. I'll pop in as necessary. Simone, you're in a room as well. All right, so yeah, Estrella was just talking about how at some point we all kind of feel like psychopaths in our business, and so there's a bit of playfulness with the terminology there. All right, so your goal was to discuss it. You guys had 10 minutes to discuss it, and then kind of whatever your key findings are. Maybe it's a strategy, maybe it's just raising the core issue, maybe it's isolating a problem, maybe it's actually a solution. Don't list off the laundry list of everything you guys talked about. I want a key takeaway, someone to represent your group, a key takeaway, whether it is making it very, very significantly problem aware, maybe it's jumping to solution, maybe it's another insight that you had. So, we had several breakout rooms. I jumped around between the breakout rooms. I noticed that there was a different focus between various breakout rooms as well, which is a good thing. And so we want to get some of that insight. So who wants to go first on the representation for their breakout room and what they experienced?
I'll go first if you want.
Yeah, go ahead, Trev.
So what we noticed was a very high abundance of ideas or integration problems that this owner wanted. But with his team being so disorganized, it felt like the team was disorganized, not managed well, kind of overwhelmed. We had two ideas. One, is he priced correctly to have such a backlog? So maybe the pricing needs to increase to decrease the demand on his employees, which then would free up time to tackle these things. Or the other thing is specialization, or getting team members to specialize in certain departments so that they could tackle these areas more efficiently, so that when one department's slow, they have the ability to start to integrate one of these. And I think the big key here is don't try to integrate all of them at the same time. I think you pick one and pull it in, get someone to focus on it, and then teach the way through it all.
Fabulous. Really, really great. I love the insight that you had there about if the backlog is 2 weeks, are they undercharging? That's very insightful. Yep. Absolutely.
Jump in
Yep.
next if I like that about the undercharging too. Good call. We chatted about same thing. The team is overwhelmed. How can we sort of deal with that? And I think prioritizing the ideas and the where they want to go with the business. So like creating a strategy, I think CRM and the sales point would be, number one, you want to get that locked in because that's going to make it easier to generate more business. And then, before you do these community rides and start bringing in all these bikes that you're going to be renting out, you probably want to figure out your no wait department on the repairs and get that settled in first. And then once you've got that in place, you bring in your community rides, and when that's all operating at a good, streamlined function, then you can bring in that racing line and focus on that. But the only way to do that, I feel like, is, and we like what we talked about, is maybe outsourcing some of the lower end and not as like the CRM is something that you could probably outsource and find somebody to create that system for you and bring it into the company and sort of train everybody on it. And then hiring, picking out team managers who wants to be a lead for each one of these tasks, and finding somebody who can either lead an outsourced team or hiring more people that you can lead internally.
Yep, great. For some reason your video was off for a lot of that, but yeah, really, really good point. So to me, I think the crux of what you were talking about was sequencing. Sequencing what happens in what order is kind of what I got out of that. It's like, yeah, they're all important components, but like, what are you going to do first? And integrate something, get it working, This is a really common thing. And in fact, I hear it all the time. I hear it from a bunch of you in the room where you have all these ideas and you're like, yeah, I'm like, okay, great. And so it's one of those things where, you know, when we're looking at a case study, you're like, you know, we should probably put these in correct order. Yes, you got to roadmap it 100%. Yeah, really good points, Bruno. Okay, who's up next?
I can go.
Okay.
I made the metaphor in the group saying that it's like trying to add more weight to a broken truck. So it's like you have to fix a truck first. And if you are going to integrate these things, like if they want the CRM, like it could possibly make everything run smoother. So if you want to integrate that, like maybe it's about communicating, you know, it's going to maybe take 1 or 2 weeks to learn, but it's going to speed up production, and then we'll have more time and space for everything else, right? So yeah, priorities are great as well of what you want to tackle. Like, but it seems like the manager, the leader was just 20 steps ahead of everyone else, right? So like the clothing line, don't have to think about it. Community comes later, but if you don't have the time and space to fix what's actually going on right now, there's no point.
Yep. So, you know, you highlight a good point, Johnny, based off of what you're representing from your breakout room, is that the benefit of this particular owner is that they have a vision for what they want the company to be, and they're dealing with the current unmanageable vortex of their existing processes that won't fulfill their future vision. So they don't have a bridge between that and this. And so there's a frustration of the expectation and the gap between those two things, right? And that's a really, really common state. And so then how do you chunk that down to get implementation? Yeah, really, really good. Okay, cool. Who's up next?
So I'll jump in because we were kind of on a similar wavelength. And this is fascinating because every room kind of had different directions they went. But we really talked about, okay, what are our current resources? How do we get clarity around, do we have redundancy? What does overwhelmed even mean? We tend to assume as leaders that means overworked, burning out. But when we actually talk to team leaders, when we talk to employees, they might just say it takes 7 hours to do a job that should take an hour, right? So understanding what's broken and what needs to be addressed to be able to create the capacity. If we can't bring in external resources, we have to work with what we have. What tools are in our toolbox and are they being leveraged correctly? And where can we find the space to bring in these integrations in a successful way? And then creating people that are leading tasks and being held accountable to them.
Mm-hmm. Yep, fantastic. Is there a group that hasn't spoken yet?
Duncan was. He did have his hand up, but he didn't come back. Okay. I always say follow the money. You know, if their repair service is backlogged, customers are finding dismay to their fast service. They're losing business. They get a bad rap. The business goes down. Fix that repair service is our angle, and have a SWAT meeting with everyone and just make sure everyone's on board for that vision. Communication again, everyone understands this. And then we also said the CRM can really be beneficial, but again, it's technology. People have to learn from it, but it could also hit two birds with one stone. The CRM could also do some marketing for you in a sense. So in a nutshell, that's what we were talking about.
Yep. Very good. Any additional thoughts, given kind of what the conversation and where that direction has kind of gone?
I had another idea, just thinking about what everyone was saying. I think that a lot of times when you're trapped in a state of constant panic, which it seems like everybody in the store is constantly overworked and they're hustling and there's just no chance of catching up. I think the big fear is you're never going to catch up. So you start to quit a little bit. And I think in that moment there, the leader, the owner, should almost just close the store for one day, give them a break, and then teach. Give them a little bit of a break and a teaching moment so that they can regroup, get a better plan. Because when you're just living in that sense of urgency, I think it just builds on itself and then creates chaos. So I think that maybe shutting the store, which would seem counterproductive, might actually improve productivity.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, these effectively happen with like strategic retreats, maybe like a big walkthrough, maybe a big like issue discussion, maybe it's a town hall. There's a whole bunch of ways to kind of go about doing it. And with a lot of you guys, I work on that idea of SIR, right? Sustain, improve, remove. I would do an SIR assessment. What are our processes that we normally use that we're not sustaining? What processes do we need to improve because they're not fulfilling the need? And which processes do we currently have that we need to remove? Right? Having a clear idea of what those things are is fundamental in there as well. Australia, you had your hand up?
Yes, I remember that one of the incomes was just building bikes for the showroom, and that was the only income that they have. So in that case, I know the business has to slow down a little bit, but you can take that moment to improve that, to create your SOP where you can assign the proper roles to each person, to the managers, to the team leaders, and not everybody is not doing the same task or everything. Probably is the perfect time that they can just slow down, preparing the SOP, assign the roles properly. You can train your people that you already have at the same time. They can rest. And if you have if you need extra hand in the meantime they're doing the training, I think somebody say contractors or something, probably just for certain time that they're gonna do a good job, and probably your income, it's not gonna be the same as when you are building the bikes, but you still have a certain percentage, and you're also recreating your culture, your vision, your mission. You can send this information and communicate with the team, and you don't need to shut down for one day or something.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a few things here as well. Some of you in the room have read The book The Goal, right? It has to do with the theory of constraints, like batching. There's clearly not batching happening, right? It's just like, can we batch production? There's
Such a good book.
It's such a good book. Yeah,
Everybody should read it. It's so cool.
Yeah. Yeah, 100%. So there's all these components. Okay, so let me go back to the main slide here. So how many of you want to grow? Yeah, okay. How many of you want to attract new customers? Okay, these are good objectives. How many of you need to implement some sort of new software? In this case, it's CRM, some sort of new software, some sort of new website. Pretty high, okay? How many of you want to have a no wait in regards to your service delivery? Yeah, okay. How many of you want to launch a high-end product line within your company? I know this is true for all of you, okay? It's like, it's like, how many of you are having issues with the right amount of stock to keep on hand to deliver? It's like, these are fundamental problems. Your team's sometimes overwhelmed. Where your log jobs are happening, okay? Where there's an allocation of resources. And so the ability to start to integrate some of the solutions, integrate some of the problems going on here, managing your shipping, managing your receiving, managing all those things, while not overwhelming the team and keeping the business going, is fundamental. Now, I agree with Trevor. The idea of being able to close down for a half day or a full day and kind of focus on what matters, if you're really feeling like the ship has run wild, fantastic. And sometimes companies don't have the liberty to do like a full day. So you got to be very tactical and make a plan and execute on the plan, right? And the idea of sequencing, prioritizing, all those things are true. So here's your homework. Based off of what you just learned right now, if you pick one thing that you focused on for the next 2 to 3 weeks before our next mastermind, for you to be able to go, what would I need to integrate in the next 2 to 3 weeks so that by week 4, before we go into the end of June, it will be a part of my system. What would that one thing be? Now, some of you, we have this work done and we have some roadmaps and stuff, but for some of you, we don't. And it's really important to think about what is that one thing. Okay. So here's a few updates, and we'll do some quick takeaways here. New time, so 1 p.m. That's what we're going to roll with right now. I might expand to 90 minutes downstream, just because there's a lot of really good discussion happening, and I want to grow this community out. And so the UTD Mastermind community is out in WhatsApp. So if you haven't joined, join. If you don't know how to join, fire me a message. I'll make sure that you're on there. This is like the brain trust, right? Like I try to give you guys a lot, but I think a lot of you are able to give each other a lot. And so the ability to have this and help solve problems or even just get access and ask questions is really, really important. This is coming downstream. It's an in-person platinum level CEO group. This will be those full day escapes. And it'll be very, very close group, and there'll be some requirements around it as well. So that's what's going on there. The next session is going to be June 27th, which is the last Friday of each month. If you know anyone that would benefit from this, let me know, get me in touch, just fire off a text message together, be like, hey, I think this person would be great for this. So any closing takeaways? We've got like 2 or 3 minutes. Big takeaways from today.
I'll share one, Edwin. I thought your comment around the philosophy behind using a case study was very, I don't know, like a light bulb went off for me. It's never actually occurred to me that the reason why they're so effective is because you're not emotionally connected to the situation. Therefore, it gives you clear eyes to approach it. And I think just recognizing that as a tool was something that I'll take away. And if I can find ways to implement that or integrate that into my everyday, how do I apply the same situation? Maybe allow myself to be one step removed, and how would I approach it using clear eyes? I wonder if that's something that could be helpful for my I don't know, just my professional future.
Yeah, huge. I mean, I looked at all of you guys and all of our conversations, and I'm like, what are your guys' problems? And then I'm like, okay, how do I make this into a simulation? That's all I did. Yeah. I'm like, you know what I mean? And so it's like,
makes
okay,
sense.
Great, right? Yeah, really good, especially for what you're doing, Drew, with pipeline and all that. So really positive. Yeah, other takeaways.
I would just say integration as a whole, it was really nice to do a deep dive into it because, I mean, it's in our daily life, in our businesses here, but to really focus in on it, the meaning of it, what it means, how to do it, and the issues that arise. And it was just nice to have some time. And I'm going to take this away. Actually, I've been thinking since you gave us the homework, I'm excited to kind of focus in on some of the struggles I'm having with our new business and choosing something to integrate in the next 2 to 3 weeks. So, yeah.
Solid.
Yeah.
One more.
I think what I'm going to take away, first of all, great meeting. Thanks. Nice to meet all of you. One thing that I'm going to take away from this is clarity is so key. Like without clarity, there will be nothing will get done. You have to be clear on your mission. You have to be clear on who's going to do that mission. You got to give everybody roles. And I think the biggest, for me, I can say for myself, the biggest inhibitor of integration for me is fear. Fear of change. I don't like change. I have to start to embrace change. And because if that's how I feel as a business owner, can you imagine how your employees feel that don't have the same maybe care and drive that you do for your business, how they would feel about change? And also I found too, when I worked for others, change always made me feel like they thought I was doing something wrong. So I resisted it, saying, no, I am giving you my time don't put this process in just so you can track where I am. Don't put this GPS system in my truck so you can see where I am all the time. You get defensive about it, right? So that's what I'm going to take away. Thank you.
Yeah.
Nice to meet you guys.
Fabulous. All right, team. Enjoy the Friday. And I'll upload the link to the video into the chat and email it out also to everyone on here. Very good.
Adios, muchachos.
Ciao, ciao.
Thank you.
Thanks, Ed.
Bye, guys.
Have a great weekend.
Have a wonderful day.